Hi guys, welcome back to the Drive Life channel, and in today's video we're talking MOTs. And we're talking you through sort of how to prepare your car for its MOT. The S80 has just passed its MOT a couple of hours ago, so yeah, I'm in a good mood because it only had one advisory, and that was the fact that the exhaust, one of the exhaust mounts is broken, but it actually had that advisory the two MOTs before I bought it, and the first time it came up was on its first MOT back in 2012. So I'm not too concerned that it's going to be that much of an issue. I had noticed it when I'm driving the car over sort of bumpy surfaces, and you can hear it. Just wait for this bus to go by. You can hear it if you push. That side doesn't do it, but there, you can hear that. I don't know if you can hear that. There's a bit of a rattle where it's one of the mounts has come loose. So yeah. Oh, and actually, I had to do a bit of prep work as well, but I'll talk about that in a second. So obviously, MOTs you have to have done every year, and for us motorists who like used old cars, such as these ones here, we have to. It becomes a bit of a bane because sometimes if your car goes, if it doesn't pass, then you can be stuffed. For example, it's a busy road today. I've got to drive my new boss down to the coast with his wife tomorrow, and had this not passed, I don't know what I would have done. I don't think they'd have been too happy in the back of the Jeep. So unfortunately, it is all good to go. So yeah, once a year it's sort of a test that tests everything to do with the car. Other people in other countries, obviously you have similar things. In Germany you've got the tooth inspection, in USA you have just a state inspection, I suppose, and yeah, it's an inspection that checks everything to do with the car. So let's go and talk about all the things that they test. This isn't an entirely exhaustive list. I'm not an MOT tester, but this is the sort of test that all the sort of stuff I test before it goes to the MOT. And touch wood, I've only ever had one car fail an MOT, and that was my MX-5, and it had an anti-roll bar drop link had broken, and had a rear sort of wheel bearing go, so that wasn't too bad really. And actually I took it to the garage down the road, got the drop link fixed, took it to the other garage down the road, and they said that the rear wheel bearing was fine. So yeah, figure that one out. So yeah, let's get into it before I talk too much. So the first thing that MOT testers will check is the lights. Well, actually the horn. They'll start the car up and push the horn straight away before they even drive it into the garage, and that's how they have to test the horn works. And then obviously the next thing is all lighting. So if you have any sort of lights that don't work, headlights, tail lights, reg lights are a big one. It gets a lot of people because you obviously don't notice it ever. Brake lights is another one as well. Now I like to check mine quite regularly anyway, so never had an issue with that. Mirrors and glass. If you've got any damage to the mirrors at all, including sort of discoloration on this glass here, that can be a fail or an advisory, depending on the severity. Next is the windscreen. So if you have any sort of cracks in certain areas of the windscreen, it can fail. Or if you have any cracks in the windscreen at all, it will fail. Any like large chips in various bits of the windscreen, then it'll fail as well. You have to excuse all of that. That's all WD-40, and I'll explain that now. So those of you who've been viewing the channel a long time, you'll know that I've had so many issues with these washer jets. They've been the bane of my life, to be honest. They're constantly getting blocked. They work pretty much for about 6 weeks of the year when I have my MOT, and I have to unblock them to get it through the MOT. And I've never really been able to get it nailed as to why it's been sorted. I mean, I've checked the check valves, they're all okay. Pump is fine. It's just just never really worked. I've replaced the nozzles as well. That hasn't worked, so I've never been able to work out quite what the issue is. I think the next thing I'm going to have to do is just replace the whole pipe system, and I'll obviously make a video on that when it comes to it, but it's not something I'm really looking forward to doing because it's a bit of a faff. Yeah, so that is something else that they check, whether the windscreen washers spray sufficient amounts of liquid onto the windscreen and whether the wipers do a good job or not of doing them. They'll also check the condition of the wipers, so if they're too sort of deteriorated, they will be failed. Now this car, fortunately, has had new wipers in the last 12 months, I suppose. So yeah, it'll be absolutely fine on there. Next is your tyres. That's a major one. If you've got any sort of cuts in the side of the tyres, bulges, anything in the tyre, if the tyres are too low pressure, etc, etc. Obviously tyre wear as well. As you can see, these cross climates have got plenty of meat left on them. They've only been on about 20,000-30,000 miles, so they've got plenty of life left on them. Brakes and handbrake, obviously they'll check if the car brakes in a straight line. They do this by putting it on a machine that rolls the wheels, and then they'll brake and it measures the force, or the stopping force of each wheel to determine if the brakes are working well and in unison. So if you've got one side pulling harder than the other, that can be a fail as well. And that's the same for the handbrake as well on these rear wheels. So that's actually a much less common failure on cars like this with the electronic handbrake, because it is fairly self-sufficient and self-regulating. And obviously you need to check your rear tyres as well. Now if you've got a tow bar like this fitted, that can be another issue. So I got collared there. So yeah, if you've got a rear tow bar like this fitted, you need to also make sure there's no corrosion within a certain area of this. It can be any sort of corrosion, and my camper van's fallen foul of that before. It's roughly a beach ball size of where it mounts, if that makes sense. So bear that in mind, because that can be something that can catch you out, even if it's a body panel, so an old classic vehicle, so these plastic. But if there's any sort of metal component nearby that's compromised because of rust, that can be a fail as well. Now the rest of it is fairly sort of in the hands of the gods of how much your suspension, etc., has stood up over the life of the car. Now my last MOT, I had an advisory for this shock absorber on the right hand side here. That was replaced and thankfully hasn't been an issue. But shocks, etc., fairly easy to tell whether they're going to be an issue or not. The car will bounce. As you can see, this car dips down and comes back up and stays there. It doesn't bounce like it used to, so that's suggesting the shocks are fine. And you can have a quick look at the springs, etc., but you can't really tell unless you've got a proper ramp for the car. So yeah, final thing, just to make it easier for a lot of people, is if you've got anything like this dog crate here, or car seats, etc., that are in the back of the car, remove them before the MOT if you can. Just got a large tractor coming by. Because some garages, they're really picky, such as sort of your high street garage chains. I'm not going to mention any names, but they will put that as an advisory, saying they couldn't check the rear seat belt, which is totally ridiculous, because you can just pull it, and obviously you could plug it in quite easily, but they're not, because they're not allowed to touch people's car seats, etc. That's an issue that a few people can fall foul of, and I think it's a bit of a joke, really. But yeah, anyway, and any of the leaks as well. So if you've got a transmission fluid leak, if you've got a power steering leak, if you've got an engine oil leak, if you've got coolant leak, anything like that, that'll also be picked up. So bear that in mind, because that can also lead to a fail if it's too bad. But yeah, overall MOTs aren't too much of a thing to stress about, really. If you look after your car, and if you regularly maintain it and sort of fiddle with it a lot, then you're going to be aware of any issues. Of course, we've got a convoy of tractors coming down the road now. You're going to be aware of any issues probably anyway. Let's wait for these to go by. So yeah, it should be absolutely fine. So thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Just wanted to make this video more to celebrate the S80 passing, really. It's another year of motoring ahead of it, and yeah, the mechanic said there's not really anything that's going to be likely wrong next year either. So yeah, it's going to be yeah, going for a long time. So I might have to consider keeping it and getting another Volvo as well, because it's just been so reliable and such a workhorse. But yeah, we'll save that for another video. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next one. Cheers.